All right. Hello, Guild Wars gamers. Muckluck here. We've got some new Guild Wars news today, referring to Guild Wars 3. They've got another blog post out highlighting the upcoming playable species, the Kodan. So if you missed the previous news, Guild Wars 3 is going to be launching with 4 playable races, and they have said that they are leaving themselves open to be able to add more races in the future. The races that we are getting at the launch of Guild Wars 3 is Human, Asura, Kodan, and one that we do not know yet, that they have not told us. But they said it was going to be new, so I believe it is not going to be something that we know of already, like a Char, Sylvari, a Dwarf, a Largos. I think it's going to be something that we've never heard of in Tyria, and they're just expanding the script a bit. So, today's focus is on the Bears. Let's jump into it. Greetings, good people of Tyria. I'm Aaron Amschlinger of ArenaNet's narrative team. As part of our series on the playable species of Guild Wars 3, we're going deep on a species whose outsized presence in our announcement trailer at Summer Games Fest may have caught your notice. Tyria's much beloved bearkin, the Kodan. While longtime Guild Wars 2 players may be well acquainted with the headstrong forebears on the Isle of Janthier, the Kodan of the Orion Golden Age are a unique case in the history of the species. A population called south to the wilds of Or, prompting a resurgence of belief in an otherwise faithless people. As you set paw onto Orion's soil, you shall begin your own journey, one that's sure to be retold by the fireside. So, a quick pause there. The Kodan that we know of in Guild Wars 2, there's the ones that are like polar bear themed, and they are way up in the north in like the Shiver Peaks near the area where the Norns reside. Those ones in the lore, similar to the Norns, were driven south when Jormag woke up and started like super blizzarding everything up there. So they had to retreat from the lands where Jormag was, bringing them further southward, just like the Norns. The other Kodan that we've met are the ones in Janthier, which are the lowland Kodan, and they're the ones that are like kind of like brown bears in appearance, and they talk very slowly, and they were a big focus of the Janthier Wilds expansion. So these ones, back when I did a video where I was just speculating on what races and classes we would get in Guild Wars 3, I actually said that I was like, we know that lore-wise Kodan did exist during this time period, but I don't think they're going to be there because none of them are as far south as Or. So this surprised me because I didn't think that they would go this route. So they just like, yeah, there's this other group of Kodan that were in Or, and you just didn't know about it. I'm like, okay. Heeding the voice or embracing the silence. Originating in the far Shiver Peaks, the Kodan are, broadly speaking, a culture defined by their faith. Kodan worship Koda, the creator, a deity they believe to be the sole fashioner of Tyria and all the natural and magical life that inhabits it. Devoting the whole of their civilizational effort in service of this creator, the Kodan are among the most capable fighters on Tyria. Ferocious, intelligent, and driven by unshakable conviction. Per their belief, a direct connection exists between Koda and a blessed few among his tribes or followers, called voices, chosen tributes attuned to the mind, thoughts, and will of their creator. It's very shamanic. The voices for each tribe are kind of like shamans. Guided by these people, the Kodan interpret the will of their god as a mission for the whole of their people. The duty to watch over all of Tyria and foster an enduring balance in the natural harmonies of the world. This connection is an almost universal feature of Kodan settlements across Tyria, with one notable exception, the bearkin of the Isles of Janthier. Featured prominently in Guild Wars 2 Janthier Wilds, the Kodan of Janthier were brought to those fabled lands as a result of a notorious voice who abandoned her calling and rejected Koda. This population of Kodan would endure for centuries, carving out a new way of life unburdened by the faith that defined the contemporaries they left behind. But as any Kodan who has heard it themselves can tell you, the call of their god is powerful and compelling, even and eventually, perhaps especially, amongst those who refuse to listen to it. A stirring, a flash, and a long journey. Echoing across Janthier, the call went mostly unheard by the Kodan who dwelled there, save for a chosen few. Steeped in a culture that roundly rejected the will of Koda and was fearful of ostracization, sorry, struggled with that word. Those who experienced this sudden and jarring renewed connection largely kept it to themselves, whispering of it only behind closed doors with those who had felt it too, an inexplicable pull toward a far-flung and mythic land called Or. a sense that some duty awaited them there. Many who felt this stirring refused to believe it was real at all until the motions of the world confirmed it for them, with news of a great calamity erupting in Or's Tugra Basin. The disaster was so mythic in scale that it prompted the renewed faithful among the Janthier Kodan to publicly attest to their experience despite the risk. Koda's will was not only real, they claimed, but clearly apparent, a call to the faithless of Janthier to renew their conviction in service of the natural balance of the world needed nowhere more than the storied lands of Or. This proved to be a catalyst for yet another schism among the Bearkin. Refusing to let their divine call to action go unanswered, those who heard Koda's beckon began a second migration, flanked by those inspired to follow. Those chosen few formed the first seeds of Kodan settlements in Or, your forebears, nice, as a Kodan player in Guild Wars 3. The Orion Kodan and the Veil. The first of the southbound Kodan reached Or over 100 years before the start of Guild Wars 3. They felt an immediate conviction that they had arrived at their destination. They sensed a land ailing, the way one smells sickness in a loved one long before it's spoken of. A palpable pain radiating from the natural magical world. But what was its cause? As the Kodan continued their exploration of the region, the environment exuded something else entirely. Beauty. Surrounded by the majesties of the Veil, the range of breathtaking magical creatures that lived in Or, the arriving Kodan were certain that they had interpreted Koda's call correctly, and that his will was to see this land healed and protected. This certainly prompted the founding of a permanent settlement in northwestern Or. The Orion Kodan felt an immediate kinship with the Veil Wardens, still young in their mission to protect the Veil's magical creatures, but that sense of fraternity was not immediately returned. Fresh off their originating tragedy and highly insular, the Order was not trusting of outsiders and refused to open their ranks to the Kodan or anybody else for many years. Though early friction and clashes led some among the Kodan to doubt the call that brought them to Or, the ethos they shared with the Veil Wardens would over time grow into one of the Order of the Veil's deepest and most enduring alliances. Just kind of taking that in for a second there. So they're saying the Kodan were there for 100 years before Guild Wars 3 starts. So they've probably already got like established towns, villages, maybe cities. You know, they're probably not going to be like living in tents. We're probably going to see some architecture from them. Wondering if it's going to look similar to what we saw in Janthier or if they're going to, go a different way with it. It wouldn't be unusual for the structures to look similar to what we saw in Janthier, since they're, kind of a branch off of that. But then again, it was also 1,000 years before we met the ones in Janthier. Maybe their architecture was different back then. I don't know. The Orion Kodan of today. A century deep into the grand experiment to reclaim their connection to Koda, the Orion Kodan find themselves at a fork in their path. The Veil Warden's mission is faltering. The conviction that carried their forebears south is dwindling with each passing generation. I'm imagining the writer that wrote this, each time they write forebear, they're just like giggling to themselves constantly. And all the while, the world around them is rapidly changing, the natural balance they were called to protect crushed beneath the wheels of progress. So, when the long insular Order of the Veil at last opened its ranks and began to recruit, the Kodan were, of course, among the first to answer. As a Kodan player, you are one of them, swearing yourself to the Veil Warden's banner as your own interpretation of Koda's will. Your forebears came to this land to carry out their divinely appointed duty as Tyria's guardians. Devoting your life to the Order is your way of picking up their torch. How you fill your duty to the Guild is as unique as the Wardens who make up its ranks. And here we find ourselves. As one attuned to nature, you know well that change is the only constant. The Or of today is not the Or of your forebears. Though many Kodan have long kept to the first and only major settlement, a whole world awaits beyond its bounds. A bustling intersection of old and new, progress and tradition, where guilds abound and a mosaic of ideologies, species, and histories collide. Many a Bearkin before you has left the confines of the Northwest for reasons economic, spiritual, or personal. Whatever your own beliefs, your dedication as a Kodan of the Order of the Veil comes first. Protect the spirits in the land they call home. Everything else is secondary, but be wise, the company you keep has a way of keeping you. Like Or itself, you stand at the meeting place of history and possibility. Go forth, Cub, Or awaits. Lot to unpack there. Pretty interesting stuff. So we know more about how the Kodan got there in the first place. We know how long they have been there. We know that the reason that they're there is because that silent inner calling that they feel, the pull of Koda, led them there. I like the idea of the writing of for many years, like some individuals felt it, but they were like, oh, I can't talk about this. People will think I'm crazy. And it was a long time before someone finally said something, and everyone else was like, you know what? Me too. Yeah, I'm also vibing that. Yeah, that sounds like how it would go. That sounds like how it would go. And it's kind of interesting that they heard news of a catastrophe happening in Ore, and then they kind of pieced that together with their calling from Koda, and that they get there and they want to help the humans. The humans are like, nah, everything's been trying to kill us lately, so you just stay away for a while. Maybe you'll grow on us. And apparently they did eventually. So that is both insight into the Kodan and also insight more into what is happening during that time period that we don't know much about. But that's it for today. So playable species spotlight the Kodan. I would imagine then the next one is going to be the Asura, and I am guessing the last one will be the mystery one that we know nothing about. So still time to guess at things. Remember, they told us it was going to be new, so I don't think it's going to be Tengu or Largos or Dwarf or anything we've seen in the game before. I think they're cooking up something new, and then it's going to be something that we haven't seen in the previous Guild Wars games. It might have been in the literature, like the I think they're called like the Margonites. Like, I don't know much about them. The name, might be that, or it might be something completely different. But that's it for this blog post. If you got any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, put them in the comment section down below, and I'll fight you there.